Hello everyone, this is APO Sports. And yeah, that game last night, game 2 of the WNBA Semifinals, did not necessarily go the way that Fever fans expected or that the Indiana Fever expected. They got beat up pretty good by the Vegas Aces by about, what was it, 22 points, so 90-68, I believe was the final score of the game. And, I mean, at some point we do have to realize the team that the Fever has and the players that they're actually missing, because in this game in particular, a certain player had to be featured more often than other players, and that's where you see the flaws in the current roster as constructed. Was it you know was it anything that the Aces did causing issues for the Fever? Not necessarily, right? I mean, again, the Aces have really good players, and if they're hitting shots and if they're coming in uh, doing what they do, then they're probably going to win a lot of games. They're going to win more games, especially like if you look at the current roster for the Aces and the Fever, then the Fever are just missing key players, right? And the Aces pretty much have everyone uh, that's supposed to be on the roster. But a surprise for the Aces was Nalissa Smith, and here's when you realize, because the Fever just make so much emphasis on defense, and it's clear that the coaching staff and everyone in the organization prioritizes defense over everything else. But it is moments like these when you question, really, is that an emphasis? Because how do you have Nalissa Smith go off for 18 points, and not only 18 points, but being plus 14 while being on the floor, a player who we all know was flawed and was actually, you know, a major, you know, a major player who was causing issues with the Fever last year, especially during the playoffs. And now with the Aces, is just destroys the Fever. Like, I just don't understand that. And how do you, number one, allow someone like that to destroy you, and then number two, and how do you not take advantage of them while they're on the floor trying to defend you? So how come Boston wasn't taking advantage of Smith? How come Natasha Howard wasn't taking advantage of Smith? And when you have Turner, yeah, you're up on the defense, maybe a little bit, although she wasn't as effective last game as she was in game one. But then then Smith just guards Turner, and that's it. And you can hide Smith on the defensive end because she's just with Turner, right? And she doesn't run through screens, she doesn't, like, how do you not screen and attack Smith at every chance that you get? And that's what kills me about this emphasis on defense so much, that you forget about running offense or having a sound offensive program or system. Like, how do you not continuously run a screen action with, if you have Turner on the floor, so that Smith then has to guard Mitchell or Boston or even Sims, right? So I don't know. I will have to, check out what happened a little bit more, but I don't think there was anything really that the Aces did in particular. Just, there were a few things going on with the Fever. They were turning the ball over way too much. So I mean, that's already pretty bad. And it wasn't, again, a product of good defense from the Aces. It was unforced errors, a lot of unforced turnovers, uh, just silly mistakes. And then two, just missing shots, missing open shots. Lexie Hall had a ton of open looks, but she wasn't hitting. Now, do you complain? You can't, right? That's basketball. You set the play and find the open person, and you hope that they hit, which in Lexie Hall's case, she hits more often than not, or at least at a good rate. But it wasn't dropping. Even Kelsey Mitchell, right? I remember there was a layup, a wide open layup. She just missed it. So Aliyah Boston had a ton of good looks. I mean, she just missed them. Like, at some point, right? You do what you can to set yourself up to make shots, but They don't go in. And then too much Odyssey Sims. It's just too much Odyssey Sims. So we're gonna take a look now as we do the chessboard basketball, as we go over the chessboard basketball analysis, but just too much Odyssey Sims. So I mean, okay, I, I just would like to know, because when I do these reactions, then I would react a little bit different. Is Sim supposed to be a star in the team? If she's supposed to be a star, then we can change our expectations of what, of what the player is. But don't tell me don't tell me that because she's a point guard that she's going to dominate the ball more often than not. I don't want to hear that at all whatsoever. Number one, she's not really a point guard. She's just filling the point guard role because she's short, I guess. And I guess tall people can't be point guards for whatever reason. Because I still believe, and I think everyone believes, that Aliyah Boston is the best passer, the best playmaker, and the player with the most basketball IQ on the roster. But somehow we continue to run everything and do everything through short players. I don't know. I mean, ask the Denver Nuggets, right? And again, people kill me every time that I try to compare Aliyah Boston to Nikola Jokic, and I am not saying that Boston is Jokic, although in the WNBA, the player who mirrors Jokic's game more than anyone else is Aliyah Boston, but she doesn't really get that too much of an opportunity to develop that. So, but that's neither here nor there. Fact remains that you're not running your offense through your best playmaker, your player with the highest basketball IQ, with your best passer. That's known. So instead, you have a role player dominating, and we're going to look at this. So let's actually look at the numbers for each player on our chessboard basketball analysis. So here we have just the overall results of chessboard basketball, and yeah, we can go over that, but I want to go through each individual player's charts. So here we have Boston, right? And for Boston, these are not bad. These are not bad at all. So she had 3 turnovers, which is the result of those 3 bad possessions. So we have 16 possessions that ended with Aliyah Boston out of 75. And yeah, so missed shots for sure. Here's missing a mid-range, I think. Yeah, missed a mid-range shot. This is a made shot. This is outstanding, playing with Kelsey Mitchell. And this is the other observation that I have as well, is that they don't run a lot of offensive sets between Boston and Mitchell. Like, as far as like, the 2-man or the 2-player game, screening or the pick and roll between Mitchell and Boston doesn't happen that often. And if you look again at the Denver Nuggets, and Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston play a lot more of the 2-man game, of that pick and roll between the two of them. Then if you look at the Denver Nuggets, it's Murray and Jokic all the time. And teams fear that pick and roll because how do you really deal with, who are you gonna double, who are you gonna come out at, or come out to defend? It's a nightmare. But look at this, only 2 plays really resulted Mitchell finding Boston, and that's it. That's it. Out of 75 possessions, only 2 where you're using possessions ending with your 2 best players on the floor. And that's, in my opinion, that's a bit of a crime. But anyway, 16 possessions for Boston. Most of them were really good. 3 turnovers, which comes to, you come to expect it. Here's the other observation as well. There was a lot of involvement by Aliyah Boston in the first half. So you see these possessions from possession 11 through 33. That's all the first half. And then she only have 4 possessions that ended with Aliyah Boston in the second half. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that a product of the aces? Maybe to a certain extent, but then how do you make sure that you open Aliyah Boston up? And I just feel like the Fever don't do enough of a good job to try to set her up, to give her the basketball, to let her either create or to go against the favorable matchup by screening or doing other things to pretty much emphasize Boston on offense. And then Kelsey Mitchell, so she's a little bit more involved. and she had 22 possessions out of 75 that ended with Kelsey Mitchell, and only two bad possessions, right? She had two dead ball turnovers, which is not bad at all. So overall, yes, the Aces did a good job taking away Kelsey Mitchell. They were coming at her. They were sending all kinds of bodies. Not only that, but they were switching. So whenever they would switch through a screen, Wilson would come up. So they set up a system, the defensive system, where the primary defender on Mitchell, I believe, is Young or Gray. I can't remember who the primary. I think it's Young, the primary defender on Mitchell. But then when they would switch, Wilson was perfectly fine. Wilson is athletic enough where she can keep and bother Kelsey Mitchell, right? She's tall enough where if Mitchell tries to create separation, Wilson can close and bother her shot. And if she tries to go by, Wilson is again athletic, fast enough that she'll keep up. She can. That's the crazy thing about Wilson, and I think that Defensive Player of the Year is, in my opinion, well deserved. She can guard anybody on the floor. That's the scary thing, right? She can guard Kelsey Mitchell. She can guard Aliyah Boston. She can guard whoever. And she doesn't let up on defense, right? And this is not being like glazing Aja Wilson or anything like that. It's true. So, and that's their best defender, in my opinion. Yeah, Young can keep up kind of with these other players, but you have to take her away somehow. But anyways, that's kind of what's happening. That's kind of what was happening with Kelsey Mitchell and the switches with Wilson, and she wasn't able to really do much. And then she would get doubled, and Young held her own. So she wasn't able to get to the paint as much as she did in the prior game or in game one. But overall, she had a good game. She really had a really good game. But again, 22 possessions out of 75. And then let's look at Sims. I'm just gonna jump straight to Sims because this is my biggest complaint is that you have 30 possessions out of 75 that ended with Sims. And then you see a lot of bad and a lot of horrendous, right? So you have a lot of really negative possessions by utilizing Sims this much. And I mean between Mitchell and Boston, there were 22. I'm not very good at math. 16 and 22. How much is that? Is that 48? 16 and 22. Let's do the numbers. 16. I'm really bad at math, everybody. 16 and that's 38. 38 possessions between that ended with Boston and Mitchell. It's 30 with Sims. 30 with Sims. Like, is she the star now of the team? Like, can you imagine the Lakers that 30 possessions end with Bronny James and only 20 with Luka? Like, that doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen. I just don't understand how it happens in the WNBA. Odyssey Sims was picked up in this team a month ago from, not having a job to come to the Indiana Fever in the WNBA Semifinals and be utilized this much. Like, are they trying to say that, oh, hey, we don't have Caitlin Clark, we need you to be Caitlin Clark? I just don't get it. I really don't understand how this can happen. And yeah, she did. There's some good things that she did. She hit some shots at the end, but all these bad possessions is bad decision making. So -2. This is missing a bad interior shot because she gets to the paint and she just doesn't see anything else. She just needs to shoot every time. Most times that she gets to the paint, again, a missed interior shot, a dead ball turnover, and a dead ball turnover and a bad interior shot because you're going against multiple defenders and not, early in the shot clock, not looking for anything else. And then life ball turnover that leads to a aces basket, and then another life ball turnover that leads to an aces basket, and then another life ball turnover that leads to an aces basket. Like this, it's not to pick on Sims because it's not Sims' fault. She's just there, but she needs to be guided and told what she should be doing or not doing, or maybe taken out of the game. So it's just too many wasted possessions. And then again, are you saying if the team comes out and says, "Hey, this is the Kelsey Mitchell Odyssey Sims show because we believe there are two best players," then great. But I don't think that's the case. But anyways, I know she has to create when there's nothing else, but the problem is there are other things. They're just afraid to go to those things. And to me, just keep dying with Boston and Mitchell. Like, if the Fever are gonna go down in the playoffs, in the semifinals, then go down with Boston missing every shot or making every turnover. Screw it. Go down at least go down saying, "Hey, we went down with Boston or we went down with Mitchell." Don't say, "Hey, we went down with Odyssey Sims," like, ending half the team's possessions. But anyway, that was that. As far as Howard, she didn't have the best of games either, and a lot of possessions are wasted on Howard as well. A lot of turnovers, just a lot of bad decisions. She can finish, and the positive thing about Howard is that she's very active on the offensive glass, and she can clean up, and she cuts to the basket where she constantly finds herself making easy buckets because she's active. People forget about her. She's athletic, so she hustles, right? We can definitely say that. But as far as basketball IQ, there's almost no basketball IQ, and she believes that she can handle the ball more than she can actually handle the ball. Because you can see on the fast break, she tries to bring down the basketball at all speed, like she's, I don't know, Russell Westbrook or something. But she, more often than not, she loses the basketball, makes a bad pass, something happens, or gets the ball stolen. So, but I don't know. This is okay, but so 14 out of 75 possessions, that's okay. That's kind of what you expect from Howard. Maybe less is better, but this is not too bad. Lexie Hall, so as you can see, this chart is actually really good. She only had one bad um, possession, and that was like a missed basket, I think. Yeah, just a missed interior shot. But everything else, what I like about Lexie Hall is that when she shoots within the flow of the game, right? And off of passes from others. So even when she misses, so this is like a missed mid-range. It was a pass from Howard, a setup from Howard. This is a missed probably three, but off a pass from Mitchell. A missed, maybe another missed three, or missed, interior shot, but off a pass from Boston. Off another miss, off a pass from Howard. This is the only miss not resulting in a pass, but again, a miss, a pass from Sims. A miss, a pass from Mitchell. A miss, a pass from Sims. Like, it's not a lot of solo shots. If you look at Sims, what a lot of her shots are not off of passes from others. You know what I mean? It's just her trying to creating on her own type thing. But anyway, that was Hall. She just missed a lot. That was the thing, right? She took a lot of shots. She took 16 shots, but they're not. She wasn't taking bad shots. She was missing shots. And the aces were giving that to her. The aces were giving a lot of stuff to the Fever that they were simply missing. We looked at Sims, Petty. It's okay. I mean, she's under control, right? She had a great possession where she made an interior shot. And then she set Boston up, but Boston missed. And then she went to the free throw line. Powers, I didn't have Power. Oh, yeah, I do have Powers chart. One neutral, she went to the free throw line, and then bad possession. Again, Powers is the same thing. She just shoots too much, makes bad decisions, and takes poor shots. Turner had a really bad offensive game. Like, I don't know if she's playable on offense against the Aces, especially because the Aces can just hide Nalissa Smith instead of taking advantage. So I think you got to force the Aces to take out Nalissa Smith. Not that she's a problem on offense. Actually, no. Just make sure that they leave her on the court. It's probably more favorable to the Fever. But you got to know how to take advantage of that. But yeah, no, Turner was just for the most part, all negative stuff. So this is my post-game reaction. It's fine. You know what I mean? There's nothing to me. I didn't see anything like the Aces were like, oh, this crazy defensive juggernaut. They're not. The Fever simply, I think, for the most part on offense, beat themselves, not making easy shots and turning the ball over. And then the one thing that I'm really alarmed by or alarmed about is the utilization by Sims. That's pretty much it. The Fever, I mean, they won a game. They're in the semifinals. They weren't supposed to be here, maybe even make the playoffs, and they're here and they're competing. But the only thing that if I had to complain about something, it's just Sims is being used a little bit too much. And then, but I'm cool if they say that's part of the game plan. We believe Sims to be our best player, then perfect. Okay, then great. That's what you believe. I disagree, but that's what you believe. And I see, okay. Yeah, then that's justifiable that she is involved in 30 possessions or, 30 possessions end with her out of 75. Perfect. I disagree. I think Boston and Mitchell are the best players, but if the team thinks it's Sims, then perfect. All right, follow that. But if you're saying Sims is a role player and she's has this much utilization, then what are we doing? So, but anyways, we'll see. So the next game is on Friday. We'll see what happens then. If it's kind of the same, I would expect the Fever to hit more shots and maybe turn the ball over a little bit less and feature Boston and Mitchell more. So, but that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.